as much as I needed it, but I never thought to do it. It's just because in my mind, it didn't help me get past what I was dealing with. But in reality, who says that I was supposed to get past it? Who says I was supposed to conquer it? Why couldn't I just walk away from it? Why couldn't I just turn, repent, and go the other direction? Who says I had to conquer it for it to be godly? Right? So it was much needed. And it was like, man, how many, and after I go through some of those things and some of those instances, which I'll elaborate on later, like I said, I'm not going to take a lot of time. I realized how many other people are doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many people are trying to work it out? How many people are trying to hold on, trying to make it to tomorrow, but not really seeking for, repair or restoration or wholeness or confirmation or assurance, right? Just trying to make it to tomorrow so tomorrow you can make it to tomorrow. That makes sense? We do that. And we think, based on our own observation of what people are doing around us, that that's what everybody is expecting us to do. And nobody ever told you that. But you start assuming that. You start assuming they're waiting for me to be better. Right? You start assuming that. You start telling yourself, I just need to get it together because I know everybody's just waiting for me. You know what I mean? They're tired of seeing me like this. And the like this ain't even what you're talking about. I'm just tired, I know. Like, people get to talk to you. I already know what you're about to say because... Can I tell on myself? Now, if it tell on you, but I'm just talking about me. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to do this, and this. But in reality, you have no clue because you missed the very first thing that gives you the strength to do all of that stuff. Yep. A form of godliness, but not according to any real knowledge. Right? And y'all know, we're creatures of habit. We are. We're habitual creatures. Right? If you're the type of person who thrives on success, you're habitually successful. Very rarely are you're successful once at one thing. If somebody who often has to look at failure in the face, you do it more than once. Generally, you don't learn from that one time. Now, if you're somebody who's a creature of success that fails one time, never will that ever happen to me again because you can't thrive in that environment. Right? If you're a procrastinator, right? If you're extremely timely, right? It's hard for you to... We are creatures of habit. So you have to ask God which habits are best for your life. And I promise you, if a habit of prayer isn't one, you're on the wrong track. Now, while I was there, I was listening to an audiobook, right, called Pastors in Prayer. I mean, I picked the book because I thought it was the right thing to do. Little did I know I was going to get my head handed to me on a platter. And one of the things, this is an old book, the author of the book is Ian Bound. Ian Bound been dead for, 100 years, easy. But he was he was proficient in prayer. And he was just talking about prayer as a necessity for pastors and how pastors should blah, 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 blah. But here's one of the things he said that really stuck out to me. He said, you'll do everything but pray. You'll go through the entire encyclopedia of Christian antics and never actually get to praying. You'll do it all. You'll sing, You'll come to church and listen to sermons. You'll watch sermons, right? You'll go feed the hungry, right? Right? You'll even go broke. You'll do all that and still won't pray. I'm thinking, true. I want to say that's not true. And yes, it is. And he said, this is why. He said, because prayer is a sacrifice. You think all the other stuff you're doing is a sacrifice? No. Because in all of those other things, you get some kind of gratification out of them. Whether it's feeding the hungry, singing praise and worship, serving at church, ushering, ministering, pastoring, preaching, teaching youth Sunday, you're not really making a sacrifice because something you gets the gratification out of doing what you're doing. He said prayer is the only thing where you get no gratification because its only purpose is for you to stop and listen to what God has to say to you, not for you to be able to get anything from it. If you get nothing from your prayer, it's still good because it's God's opportunity. It's the one space where you welcome God into your space and give him complete permission to speak over your life. Whether it's something or nothing at all, you give him the space to do it. That's why you don't do it, because there's no certainty that you come out of it feeling good. There's no certainty that you come out of it feeling whole or complete. Even though God promises those things, it doesn't give the flesh the gratification necessary to do it and do it without failure, to do it relentlessly, even though you don't know what you're going to get out of it. You don't know what he's going to say. That's why it's difficult. That's why you fall asleep. That's why the flesh does everything possible to keep you from prayer, because it's the only thing that doesn't give it any gratification. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. My God. So why ain't the flesh weak when you want to go serve food? Why ain't the flesh weak when you want to sing praise and worship? Why ain't the flesh weak when you want to preach? Why ain't the flesh weak in those areas? Because it gives the flesh some gratification. See, prayer has nothing to do. You can even play here, and I ain't talking about public prayer. I'm talking about in your closet, where nobody can see, where nobody can say, you did such a good job praying today. Where nobody can see. And because nobody can see, you're not interested in doing it. It's a harsh reality. It's a harsh reality. Because there's nothing about your private prayer closet that gives you any public accolades. Nothing. And even worse, what you hear might make you even more lowly in the public eye. So it's a hard one, but it is the truth. I just pray, I just be praying. You just canceled everything that you said you prayed about, because you just came out here and told everybody what you wanted them to hear so they can know that you pray. I just be praying and I be praying and I be praying and I be praying. I just be praying. I be praying. God told you to come out here and say, I be praying. Who you want to know that? Why is that important? I'm just asking. If this was between you and God, why is coming here to say that you be praying important? Well, I just want to show the saints that you gotta pray. I hear you. So you want to be the example. Okay, gotcha. No problem with that. You know what I mean? But I don't remember that being how Jesus showed his example of praying. Oftentimes in the Bible, he used that time where people weren't doing anything to leave, to get away. Every once in a while, he took some people with him, but he wasn't very open about what he was communicating with the Father. The few things he did share, he shared, but a lot of it was personal. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm not saying don't come and converse with your brother and sister, but you have to ask yourself, when it comes to life, have you ever been uncomfortable in prayer? Have you ever been uncomfortable in prayer? Or are your prayers great? Right? I just love spending time with the Lord. I do too, at church, where there's singing and there's other people. I'll be the first one to tell you, there's times when I feel like I'm in trouble and have a hard time relinquishing myself before the Lord, because you know it ain't finna be good. Now, if every time you go into prayer is perfect, I'm not taking nothing away from you. You understand? You understand? I'm not saying that. But I, as one of your pastors, can be honest and say every time I go before the Lord, it ain't always comfortable. Which, because I have so much to do, can kind of keep me from wanting to do it. Because I got 1,000 things to do for the kingdom. I got 1,000 things to do for the church. The people of God need me. Right? But in reality, if I'm going to do anything for the people of God, God need to tell me what to do. Because it may not be what I think should happen. Another passage in that same book was talking about a gentleman who gave himself over to prayer. And they said that, now here it is, this is for all you soul winners, right? This is for you soul winners, people who like, your thing is evangelism, you like getting out there and sharing the love of the Lord with the people. Everybody ain't like that, so I ain't talking to everybody. Don't be offended by that, because that don't mean you bad. It just ain't you. Okay? For you soul winners, right? Who gets this high, this rush off of talking to strangers and helping them see that the Lord is where they need to be, right? There was a passage that talked about a gentleman who was a soul winner, but it said that he spent hours in prayer and he didn't stop praying and he didn't start talking to people until he was certain that they were already won for Christ. It said that he didn't say a thing to a soul until God gave him the confirmation in prayer that they were already won for Christ. Thinking, that's not necessary. You can just go out there and talk to people till they change. What you mean? You're doing this the wrong way, brother. Man, just get out there, have your scriptures ready, and everything they say, refute it with the word. Simple. No. What you're missing is that what you just did was, you might have convinced somebody on the surface that they need God, but you don't know if their heart has been changed. This gentleman was, I'm going for their soul first. And the outward part will change on its own. But if I'm certain, how much anguish does it take to be certain about something like that? About something somebody you haven't even met yet. To be certain that the moment you see them, you will know that that's the person you've been praying for, and they're getting ready to give their life to the Lord right now.
Thank you.
What kind of power is that? That's not power you can practice with the flesh. That's power that has to be given. Right? But that's the art of prayer. That's the power of prayer. That's the beauty of the mystery of prayer. That's that the sacrifices that you make to do it, the rewards are far, far exceeded. But the sacrifices that you make to not do it, what you get, the consequences are also far exceeded. When you don't pray, the consequences are hefty. When you do pray, the rewards are great. But this all depends on you. You know, you say this little show, this slogan, much prayer, much power, right? Little prayer, little power. No prayer, no power, right? That's the truth. Now, here I am. God has given me all of this information, right? I'm thinking, now, it wasn't, if you've never tried to break down before God on your own with nobody being there, it's embarrassing. No, you got to get back to certain things. It's embarrassing. You know what I mean? Here I am by myself, broken, ugly, busted, and disgusted, and embarrassed doing it. Because who's judging if I'm doing it right? Who's judging if I'm doing it wrong? Now, here it was. Initially, I'm going to give you some real life examples of what happened while I was gone. I sat on the couch, and God was speaking, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. I don't feel like it's necessary, to fall all out on the floor. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen. You understand? That's what I'm going to do. Then it got to a point where I felt like, so I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to show the Lord nothing. I'm not going to act like I ain't hearing him. What? Do I need an audience to praise him? Do I need an audience to sing? Do I need an audience to give him just raw, unadulterated worship? So then I got up and I was like, lifting my hands, right? Singing my song. And I'm like, I feel stupid. I'm going to sit back down. Now, none of y'all seen none of this. I went through this a few times. Back and forth. You looking for, why is you sitting there? Lord, I lift your name. Why am I singing out loud? Ain't nobody here. I had to work through this shell that I had on me, this facade that I had created for myself in the midst of my failures, in the midst of my lack, in the midst of my inadequacies, in the midst of all the things that I didn't like about myself. I had built a facade around myself to hide me from my true self that God really wanted to interact with. Because I do want to worship God in my heart. I do want to give him the praise that he is due. I don't want to just talk about it while I'm in the midst of a group. I want to do it no matter where I'm at, what I'm going through, what I'm looking at, who's around. Somebody or nobody at all, because he's there. And I realized it was like ramming against two sides of a wall, trying to build enough momentum to break through. And that's what I was doing. And when I finally broke through, the spirit of freedom was so realistic and my eyes opened so wide and so bright that it was an amazing experience. It's like, I've always been here. You stop seeking me. You start doing what you thought was best. Jesus. And stop coming to me for the answers for your life. And he said, it's dangerous that you're a goat. Because when you're a goat, you see no ally. You only see enemies. Anybody and anything that comes against you and what you're doing in your flesh, is an enemy to you. And because it's an enemy to you, your first mind is to defend yourself versus to submit yourself. And all the while, you wear this crown of failure on your head. You wear this crown that says that though you're not this, you're this, and though you're not that, you're this, and though you're not where you want to be, you're not where you used to be. You wear all these crowns on your head, and you wear them on top of your go. Now you shut off the world, and you shut me off, and you shut off access to me because not only are you hard-headed and deceptive and defensive, you're also glorified in your own failures. So how do I talk to somebody like you? It's a harsh reality. Because at the same time, well, God, I'm just going to quit. Yeah, right. Quit what? I'm just going to send my wife a message, say, don't come back for me. I'm just here. So now you're wearing the crown of pity, huh? That looks good. Any more crowns you want to put on before you leave here, brother? God, I'm just trying to get it right. Now you're going to yell. Perfect. I mean, every time I say open my mouth, I can't get it right. Something ain't right. It's all wrong. Ding. Now, I got crowns up to the ceiling. None of them righteous, but they mine. And if I wanted to stay in them, I could. Or if I wanted to, so God can see me, not me that I want him to see. God, I'm just Chris. Don't call me nothing else. Don't give me no more titles. Don't do this and don't do that. I'm Chris. Okay. So, Chris, what are you going to do about all them people that's waiting for you to come back? You're just going to tell them that you're Chris and that's that? You're going to just tell them that, this is not for you, What are you planning on telling them? I don't know. I don't know what to tell them. I'm tired. We all go through this in some form or another. I'm just being honest with you. Right? All the while, and we don't think we're doing it, all the while stacking crowns of false glory on top of our head, one after the next, so much so you can't even walk through the door. You want to go try to lay before God? Somehow you got to let all that stuff fall if you're planning on laying before God. Somehow all that stuff has to go out of the window if you plan on letting him speak to you. You know what I'm saying? And just understanding that the reality of that and getting back to the reality of that makes it so easy to be transparent. Because now, not that I'm not concerned about what you think about me, I understand why I'm concerned about what you think about me. So did you get that? I'm going to say it again. I don't have an attitude where I don't care because I left with an attitude where I don't care what people think about me. I'm me. If they don't like me, oh well. Right? You don't have to like me. I didn't here for you to like me. No. That's prideful. No, I am more concerned about whether or not you can see God in me. So when I think about what you think about me, I'm not thinking about it whether or not you can see my flesh or whether or not you love my flesh or like my flesh or don't like my flesh. Because my flesh ain't what you should be seeing anyway. I'm thinking about, is my flesh gone? Is it removed? Am I walking in this role as myself or am I walking in this role as God's vessel? And when I feel like myself is creeping up on me again, do I go lay it down so that you can continue to see God and feel like you're being led by God and not some man, not some, 30-some-year-old hot-headed, failure-ridden man that think he can preach or teach or talk or do whatever, and not the Spirit of God who has led him thus far. That's what I'm concerned with. And that's a very, very big difference. Because it's the sheep and the goat. They all in the flock together. But God can convert goats. He can. You don't have to be a goat. You can become a sheep. You can. And if you desire to be a sheep, he will make you one. You will respond differently to things. When he corrects you, you'll know it's for your good, not for your public demise. And I'm not just talking about chuckings, and I'm not talking about that. You know what I mean? That's surface stuff. I'm talking about what's really tearing down your house. Somebody could throw a rock at your house and it ain't gonna make the house crumble. If the foundation and the structure is there. Now, if there's no structure, a rock might just tear your whole house down. So I'm not talking about rocks, you know what I mean? I'm talking about structural integrity. You ever heard that word before? Structural integrity. It's the foundation secure. It's the beams, like these beams that hold like this beam in the middle of our church, though it's an eyesore, it means everything to this building. No, you don't like seeing it. But I promise you don't want to move it. Man, it would be so much better if it just was a clear shot all the way to the back of the sanctuary. But it might not be a sanctuary if you try to move that beam. Because it will cave in on itself. its structural integrity secures that we have a place to worship. Just like within your soul, your structural integrity, who you are as a believer, you making sure that those things are intact, secures that God has a place to come and dwell. Without it, there's no room for him. So when people check to make sure that you're structurally secure, that the pillars that's supposed to be holding up this vessel that you call a body, the things that are related to Christ that are supposed to hold it up, when people come and check them to make sure that they're not wavering and they're secure, that's not a fault to you as a person. That's a blessing. Because one day, somebody will have to come into that space and need to dwell there, and you either have it set up where they can dwell there, or you're never going to be the vessel that God can use to be there for somebody else. Oh, yes, it gets real. It gets real, and it ain't always fun. It ain't always easy. But what God is trying to set up, you can't do on your own. And you know what? I initially was going to call this message the Goat King. The Goat King. And as I was thinking about calling this message, God said, think about that. Think about what you're saying. I said, okay. I thought it was pretty catchy. I'm just being honest. He said, how many Goat Kings do you know? I said, he said, no, think. I want you to think. How many goats do you know act like kings? Now, here's the harsh reality of that statement. In the Bible, in the book of Chronicles and in the book of Kings, we talk about the kings and the rulers of Judah and Israel, right? There was 38 of them total between the books. 33 of them were goats. 5 of them were sheep. How do I know that? Because as you read it, as born of a reader as it may be, read it. And as you read it, you'll see it say, this king did evil in the sight of the Lord. And this king did evil in the sight of the Lord. It wasn't but 5. And in a whole account of thousands of years, 5. Where it said, this king did good in the sight of the Lord. Now, here's the part that we don't look at, but that the part is very, very true. Under the reign of a lot of these evil kings, they were the people that most folks would choose to reign because they were headstrong, they were defenders, right? They spoke up when you wouldn't. They did those types of things. Under the kings that God said did well, they were equally as headstrong, but they weren't being led by their own desires. And Samuel, when Israel first started asking for a king, the very first thing that he told them was that if you get a king, if you choose to take yourself from underneath the authority of God, if you let a man rule over you, you're going to regret it. He said he's going to take your sons and put them in his army to drive his chariots. He's going to take your daughters and turn them into his bakers and his servants. He's going to take your cattle and take your land and take the tenth of everything you own and feed it to his servants. He's only going to do is tax you, and he's going to make your life a living hell. And if that's what you want, then have it. Because who you're looking at to be king and the attributes that you think that they have don't mean that they're good for you. I was like, dang, God, that's ugly. He said, but I love my goats. Unfortunately, I didn't necessarily love the position that they put themselves in, but I didn't never not love them. He said, now go back to what I asked you. He said, can you think of a goat that parades himself around like a king? Who do you think of when you make that statement? You know, it was only one that come to mind. Can y'all think of one? Baphomet. It's the only goat king I've ever heard of. And when I think about the attributes and the characteristics of Baphomet, I think about everything that I say I stand against. I say I stand against. So now the desire is, well, God, I don't want to be that. Right? I don't want to seek after my own so much so to where I don't even know how to seek after you. Let's not apply all the devilish red gore and blood. I'm talking about who he is in person, who Lucifer is, who the cunning, the crafty one, the one who parades himself as an angel of light, who he is in person. He's self-seeking. Self-seeking. And being self-seeking will lead you down so many different roads to destruction that you can't even count. Because what does the Bible say about the road to destruction? The road to destruction is wide, 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 wide. Very, very wide. So many intentions, right? So many motives. So many, quote unquote, I thought I was doing the right thing. All lead to destruction. But it said that the road to life is narrow. And it's hard on the flesh because it doesn't give you all of that variation and deviance and all that detours where you can venture off and, well, I'm going to create my own lane. Right? Stay in your lane, stay in your lane. I don't even like that statement. Right? Because there ain't but one lane. Not if you're a believer. Now, if you ain't a believer, there's 100,000 lanes you can get in and ride all the way to hell. But as a believer, there's only one lane. And if you in your lane, that means you in my lane. And if you're in my lane, either I'm going to give way to you being in my lane, because that means that you may be in front of me and I may be behind you. But we're in the same lane because this lane going where we all trying to go. So that automatically puts a hierarchy in place, but not to rule over each other, to understand that God can control people if they submit to him. That you won't feel less than because you're not in front. That you don't have to rule over somebody to keep your positioning. That all those things that we battle with in our hearts and in our minds, you don't have to hate, you don't have to feel like people are betraying you. None of that stuff, because the goal is for everybody to get to the same place. And ain't but one road getting them there. One road. So yeah, that was the beginning of an awakening. I'm not sure where it's going. Honestly, I'm a little nervous. Why? Because I'm so used to doing stuff on my own. I mean, that may sound bad to you, but it makes sense to me. You might be more in that boat than you think. I know you are if I'm standing up here. You know, I have to look at myself and do I create that kind of environment for people to feel like they can develop their own thing and go their own way and figure out their own path, and that's just okay. That's them being them. While I'm up here trying to be me. While God need me to be for him, I'm trying to be me. And you trying to be you. When God trying to use you, you want to be you instead of being who God wants you to be. So we're all confused. We all need to come back to a place where it ain't about being you. That life ain't about being you. So I had all these little pink tabs because my computer was acting funny. So them was all of my scriptures. I don't know why I needed to say that, but maybe it's just my ego. I wanted to feel like whether or not people knew I studied or not, or set some scriptures aside, I don't know. But the reality is, after praise and worship, my heart was changed. You know, something different. I said, I just need to speak from my heart. Because the reality is that oftentimes we don't. Oftentimes we create a form of fashion. Now, the truth of the matter is, if God gives you something to say it. Yeah, but then stop, okay? Stop. After you say what God tell you to say, just stop. You don't have to create any more after that. Because if you do, you're generally going to lose whatever God was trying to get you to get the people to see. Just say it and shut up, okay? It works. But I wanted to come before you all because I know that, everybody knew I was gone. Nobody knew why. I love you all, and I desire to be right before God on behalf of you all. And I needed God to begin a new work in me because I had been running so hard away from the cross. And that didn't mean I was out, whoremongering or sinning and drinking. That's not the only definition of running away from the cross. I just was stuck in myself. Anybody ever been stuck in themselves? I was stuck in myself in a place that I thought I knew how to get out of, but had actively failed a couple of times at trying to get out of. And I had enough grace and favor with my wife to see me and not just, because she could have very well got stuck in herself and said, I'm just tired of you being you. Like we do that with people sometimes. I'm mad just because you ain't being who you're supposed to be, and it's costing me to have to be more than what I think I'm supposed to be. That happens. I'm just mad because now I got to do something that you were supposed to do. It don't matter that you going through nothing. That's more work for me. Oh, that hurts. That's ugly. But we do it, right? You're human. I'm not going to condemn you to hell. We all do it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not doing their part. Who's supposed to be cleaning this kitchen? It happens, right? And I'm not saying just be a pushover either. But it does happen. And we don't necessarily lay that down. We think, oh, I'll get over it tomorrow. We don't lay that down. We don't know that we're building layers, right? God, help me. Help me see. Help me see what they need. Help me see what I need. Why did I react like that? Y'all stand on your feet.